Why people always have the perceptions that 401k comes into mind that is only for the employee, not for the business owners.
However, with the business owner, it's used as a tool, not just an employee benefit. Most people.
So why that business owner should contribute still in the 401k, as you know it's a very volatile market.
Between the two of them, we were able to get over 600 grand.
So what's the difference between that pre-tax 401k and the Roth 401k?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so it's more about assuming all 401ks are created equal.
Growth or safety?
Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble on that one. No comment.
No comment.
What if I told you that government gave you legal way to avoid the paying thousand in taxes and you are ignoring it? That's exactly what's happening to the most business owners, and it's all because they think the 401k are just for the employees. Today on the Samir Show, we are blowing that myth into pieces. My guest, Matt Rosenberg, is not your average money guy. He's a 401k strategist who shows the entrepreneurs how to turn a dusty old retirement plan into a tax-cutting and the profit-boosting money machine. We are talking about how to stop the IRAs from eating your profits. The retirement plan stack that can give you six-figure or more. And why? The advisor, your financial advisor, might keeping you broke. This is not a financial theory. These are the real and actionable strategies that the top 1% of business owners are already using it. But most of us never hear about it. If this video hits 100 likes, I'll bring Matt back from the live question and answers where you can ask your specific tax saving questions directly. No fluff, just a raw financial strategy you are probably never heard before. If you are a business owner, self-employed, or even just curious how the rich play a different tax game, this episode will change the way you think about your retirement and your money forever. So let's stay tuned in the Samir Show.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
So hi Matt, good morning. Welcome to the Samir Show. How are you?
Good, thank you, Samir. Appreciate you having me on.
Finally, we met after a long time that we have discussing so many things. So yes, especially to my audience that today we are unlocking the power of the 401k. And this episode is especially for the business owner, the freelancers, or the high income. This episode is only for how you can save the money, how you can reduce the taxes and stop leaving money on the table. So Matt, let's start with the basic things. Please let us know what is a 401k and why people always have the perceptions that 401k comes into mind that is only for the employee, not for the business owner. So can you just brief about that? What is 401k and why that have the perceptions?
Yeah, and so at its core,
Hmm.
a 401k is basically it's the definition. It's an employer-sponsored retirement plan. Now, employer-sponsored retirement plan is a little bit it's a little bit unclear in terms of like you need to have employees to have one, or you as an employer, whether you have employees or not, you could be your own employer. And you create your own 401k plan.
Okay.
And even aside of that, like this is for the freelancers, the 1099 contractors, the virtual admins and things like that, where you are not receiving a W-2 from somebody's payroll for a specific company. You are receiving a 1099, you file as a Schedule C. All you need is self-employed income. You do not need an entity created to start a 401k. So, we talk about IRAs a lot out there. That's for the individual retirement account. It has nothing to do whether you're self-employed, employed by an employer. It has nothing to do with any of it. When we get into the 401k, it's purely for self-employed individuals or employers with multiple employees.
Okay. So is there any income limitations for that to apply the 401k?
No, that's the beauty of it, right? So there is no in the IRA world, there
Mhm.
is, right? You have caps and you can only make so much before you're allowed to, before you have to stop contributing. In the 401k side, there are no income limitations. You can make as much money as you want, or you can, I should
Mm.
say.
Mm.
And there is no limitation. You can continue to contribute. And on top of that, you can stack, which we'll talk about later, other types of plans on top of the 401k.
Okay. Okay. So generally in the 401k, when you say for the business owner, is it only for the retirement or for to build a wealth kind of things?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And this is kind of, we were talking about this
Yeah.
offline beforehand.
Hmm.
One of the biggest misconceptions out there,
Hmm.
and I probably shouldn't call it a misconception because it is true. That's part of the truth, right?
Hmm.
Yes, it is built for retirement. It's earmarked for retirement. The funds that are in there, the
Hmm.
IRS they're earmarking it for
Hmm.
retirement. However, with the business owner, it's used as a tool, not just an employee benefit. Most business owners, I should say, think, okay, we have a 401k plan. Maybe my state is requiring me to have one, which is becoming quite abundant these days.
Hmm.
And or maybe my employees are pushing me to have one. It is not just an employee benefit. There are so many other reasons why the business owner should be implementing a 401k plan.
Hmm.
Think about it this way: 401a is the overall tax code for all these plans that you can
Okay.
as
Hmm.
a retirement, as an employer.
Hmm.
Uh, that IRS code is made for the employer.
Hmm.
You just have to take care of your employees to a certain degree, and then you can take care of the rest of it. You can take advantage of the rest of that code,
Hmm.
which could be several $100,000 in pre-tax dollars per year.
Right. So many companies that we found that if they have any employees, right? So they
Mhm.
are covered up to that much of percent they are invested, like it's 3%. So 3% given by the employee and 3% given by the employer, right?
Mhm.
So why that employer are giving more 3% to the employee? Ultimately, it's a retirement for the employee, right? Then
Mhm.
why the business owner give more than 3%? What is the advantage for that one?
So why are they giving more than the 3% than they
Right.
have to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of uh annual testing that goes on, a lot of compliance behind the scenes when you are administering these things.
Hmm.
And the again, like I said before, the tax code 401k is part of 401a
Hmm.
and it's built for the owner.
Hmm.
But the as long as you take care of the bare minimum, which is around 3% match, like you were referencing a 3% match.
Hmm.
So the employee puts in 3%, the employer gives them a match of 3%.
Correct.
Now, why do some companies do more than that? And
Hmm.
that's generally because a few reasons. One is they really are there's a lot of competition for really, really good employees.
Mhm.
This is a lot in the IT industry,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So they'll say, we need to recruit and retain really high quality employees.
Hmm.
So we are going to try to uh, give a more robust retirement plan because businesses are not only in competition for,
Hmm. Hmm.
their customers and clients, they're in competition for the employees.
All right.
They need employees because that's what really sets businesses apart. A lot of times is the actual employee pool.
Hmm.
So that's one reason. The second reason is they're implementing different um, additional retirement plans on top of the 401k. So imagine a upside down 3, 4 tiered wedding cake.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's an
Okay.
upside down pyramid basically,
Hmm.
and we call this a retirement plan stack. The bottom, which is now the smallest layer, is the 401k plan. That's the
Okay.
23,000 that we all know and love that you're
Hmm.
allowed to contribute towards. Above and beyond that, the second layer is profit sharing. You can add profit sharing, which gets the employer up to $70,000. And then
Okay.
you have a defined benefit plan. Then you have executive benefits. So several $100,000 can go into this.
Hmm.
Now, part of that goes into making sure that you are taking care of your employees before you take care of yourself. Now, you don't have to give as much to your employees as you give to yourself. For example, we've designed multiple plans where they're putting in $300,000 for the owner, and they're giving the 3%, maybe a couple $1,000 extra in profit sharing in pension plans and things like that. But in the grand scheme of things, what we're doing is we're running efficiency ratings, and we're saying, okay, in order for the employer to put this much in, how much do we have to give to the employees? And the goal there for us is to give the mass majority to the owners. So the IRS is saying, as long as you take care and give a fair amount to your employees, you can go ahead and take advantage of the rest of it. And
Okay.
that's the way you design a properly designed 401k retirement plan stack.
Okay. But many times I found, like, say, let's consider a thing as an employee and a business owner both. Okay. Many times, like, employer gives the 401k, but they are not giving provider proper information. So I assure many people doesn't know about that 401k, that you can edit or you can add whatever the investment options they have in, right? Ultimately, it's a depends
Yeah.
on the market, right? They have the investment options, that what kind of a shares that you want to contribute, how much percentage you want to contribute, right?
Mhm.
I assure many people doesn't do that. They
Yeah.
don't do edit. I'm not sure about the business person they are doing it, but many employees don't do that one. Ultimately, it depends on the market. As you know, the how the market right now is very volatile, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So why that business owner should contribute still in the 401k, as you know, it's a very volatile market. It can be the very go down, or it could be the very up.
Yeah. That's a great question. And um, everyone has a different investment philosophy, right? So we work with business owners who, they don't want to invest, they don't want to deal with the investments. They want to hire us or a financial advisor to manage their investments for them.
Hmm.
Totally understandable. You do you, we'll do us, and we're professionals in all angles here, right?
Hmm.
And then there's another large percentage who want to self-direct their own investments inside of that as well. They want to hold the wheel. They want to maybe invest in real estate, which, like you mentioned, you can invest in real estate. You can invest in cryptocurrency inside of your 401k. You just have to find the right custodian to allow it. That's the thing. And it's a law of averages, really, what it is. So over time, the stock market, as you're referencing, uh, has averaged, let's call it 10% per year
Every year,
for the
right?
entirety of the stock
Hmm.
market.
Hmm.
There's a lot of variables there, but um, yeah, there's ups and downs. There's always ups and downs. And what we actually mentioned this in our enrollment meetings, and
Hmm.
like you mentioned, there's not a lot of education meetings in these 401k plans
Mhm.
because there's a lot of really low cost versions out there.
Okay.
And those companies are going to say, if you want to educate your employees, you do it yourself. We're not doing that. So we take that on for the employer because we want to make sure that there is an understanding that the employees are um, there's most people out there are not ready for retirement. Like mass majority are not
Right.
ready for retirement.
Hmm.
So uh, it's all about your time horizon.
Hmm.
Okay. So in 2008, that was the second worst drop ever
Okay.
in US market history, right? So the Great Depression was number one. The Great Recession in 2008 was number two. And if you held your money and did not make any quote unquote panic moves
Hmm.
or changes
Hmm.
during that downturn, you would have had your money back within 3 to 5 years, depending on how you were invested. Okay. So second worst drop ever, 3 to 5 years, you'd rebound and have all your money back because it took some time to come back, right?
Hmm.
If you panicked and pulled your money out and missed a few of the first pops, the first upswings, which
Hmm.
tend to be the best,
Hmm.
um, it would have taken twice as long to get your money back. So the one thing you think about is, am I retiring in 3 to 5 years?
Hmm.
If it's the answer is no, then let it go.
Okay.
Because if you are going to retire in 3 to 5 years, then you probably shouldn't be as aggressive with your investments anyways, or at least for all of your portfolio. Think about it, like when you retire, you're hopefully going to be retired for 20, 30 years. So the money you're not going to touch in retirement 30 years down the road, you can be a little bit more aggressive. But the
Right.
money that you need in the first 10 years, you should absolutely not be that aggressive. So when the market does take a hit, you're not taking the big hit with it. You're just taking maybe a small portion down, and then you can rebound faster. So lots of variables there, but it's diversification, compound interest. We do this as well. Compound interest is huge, a huge differentiator between someone who starts early and someone who starts later. You can save the same amount of money and have twice as much, if not 3 times much more money in your retirement plan because you started 20 years earlier.
Right.
So business owners are different. It's a little bit different mindset. When we talk to business owners, a lot of times they're sitting there, their business is their investment. That is the first investment they make, and it's the only investment they put in for 20 years. The amount of employers that call us after age 40 is substantial. Mass majority are talking to us after age 40. And it's pure because they've been looking down, working so hard, reinvesting their dollars into their business. They look up and they say, wait, one, I have a huge tax bill because I'm profitable now. Or two, I should probably diversify outside of my own company because I need to have some sort of retirement plan. I don't know if I'll be able to sell my business at any value. A lot of contractors, a lot of consultants, 1099 contractors, things like that, there is no value to the business, right? That's not something that you can really sell off, right?
Right.
There's no brick and mortar. There's no employee pool. There's no assets. There is value to business, but not all 1099 contractors have that. Sometimes it's just like, I'm going to retire. I can't sell it to somebody else because I am the business. If I remove myself, there's no value. So those folks in particular really do need to diversify because there is no sale of the business at the end of your journey, your entrepreneur journey. There's no sell. There's no value. So you have to save, have to save, have to save.
Okay. So there is another the term in the market. So there's a Roth 401k. So what's the difference between that pre-tax 401k and the Roth 401k?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So Roth those are two different tax. So if you have a 401k plan, you should have both those options within the same plan. Okay. So think of 401k as an umbrella. All right. There's different types of contributions underneath that umbrella. There's pre-tax, there's Roth, there's after-tax, there's employer versus employee contributions. There's a lot of different things going on underneath that umbrella. But the amount, the 23,500 that we were able to contribute as an employee of your own company, or we're talking to employers today. So the 23,500 that you can invest as an employee, which comes through your payroll, you can go Roth or pre-tax. Roth is taxed. I want to say the opposite of pre-tax. So let's start with pre-tax. Pre-tax is if you contribute $10,000 into your 401k plan, Uncle Sam and the IRS are going to net that down from your overall tax bill when you file your taxes. So if you earn $100,000 and you put $10,000, you're going to be billed, you're going to be taxed on $90,000.
Okay.
So it goes in before you pay your taxes, and the growth will grow tax deferred, and then you'll have a big bucket of taxable money in retirement. So as you incrementally take it out, you pay income tax in the future. Okay, so big
That is
bucket of
from
money.
401k, right? Pre-tax 401k.
That's a pre-tax 401k.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
The Roth, let's use that same $100,000 income. You put in 10,000 into the Roth bucket. The IRS will tax you on 100,000 versus the 90 on the pre-tax. However, the growth is going to grow tax free as long as you wait till 59 and a half. It's going to grow tax free, and you'll have a big tax free bucket of money in retirement. So fully taxable on the pre-tax side, fully tax-free on the Roth side. So you can imagine a lot of people say, well, tax-free sounds good in retirement. There's a lot of theories around this. Some of the highest income earners we talk to are split right down the middle. Do pre-tax, because that $10,000 you're earning or you're saving, it's called $2,500 in taxes because it's pre-tax, right?
Right.
Reinvest that $2,500 and it'll grow and you'll have more money in retirement. Great. However, the other side of it says, okay, well, 10,000, I want tax-free money because we have no idea what the tax code will look like in 20, 30 years. Right now, it's the lowest historically ever. It's the lowest ever right now, as opposed to, and we have a very large deficit. A lot of comments think we're going to have to increase taxes in order to cover that in the future. There's a lot of tax talk going on right now, obviously, in politics. So we don't know where that's going to go. But the idea here is before Ronald Reagan entered office, the highest marginal tax bracket, I think, was 93%. Okay.
I'm not sure.
93%. So if you earned over $250,000, any money above that you earned, you got taxed at 93%.
Okay.
93%. Ours right now, the highest marginal is 37 on the federal tax bracket level. So it's mind-boggling to think Reagan, historically, when he was an actor, would only work part-time because he's like, why would I give all my money away if I made over 250,000? What's the point?
Yeah.
So so 37 is really low. Could it be somewhere in the middle? Yeah. So pay your taxes now while you can. Give the money, get tax-free in retirement. It passes on to your heirs tax-free. Beautiful, right? But it's split. It's a split conversation. Everyone has a different philosophy.
So while we are withdrawing from the Roth 401k, is there any penalty? As 401k, that it's a penalty, right? Before that retirement, if you want to withdraw that.
59 and a half.
Yeah.
So what happens is on the Roth side of it, whether it's a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, this is just Roth in general. You have to wait till 59 and a half. Otherwise, the growth that you've accumulated over time becomes taxable, plus a 10% penalty on top of it. So you have to wait till you're 59 and a half in order to touch the growth. You can touch the principal, which is the contributions you put into it. So if you put in, over time, you put in $1 million of contributions into your Roth, that $1 million is what you can touch. The growth on top of it, you just have to wait till 59 and a half.
Okay. So now what are the 25 contribution limit for the traditional and the Roth 401k?
So the 23,500. So when you're looking at a 401k plan, there's something called the 401, the 415 limit. It's called the 415 limit. It's not a dollar amount. It's a tax code, 415. And that is $70,000 total in 2025. Okay. So $70,000 is the 415 limit. What that is built out of is 23,500 is considered an employee contribution. That's the money that gets withheld from your paycheck. If you're a 1099 contractor, it's just earmarked as employee. Okay. You won't really notice the difference, but the difference, which is 46,500, is considered employer contribution, which is match and profit sharing. Okay. So 70,000 limit. You can contribute 23,500 of that money into the Roth, and the rest of it is pre-tax.
Okay.
So Roth is 23.5 is how much you're allowed. It only can come out of the employee part of the contribution.
Okay. Now, as for the business owner, if they invest in the Roth IRA, in the Roth 401k or 401k pre-tax, what is the best option to take a loan, either from the Roth or from the pre-tax 401k?
Yeah, so that's another benefit to using 401k versus IRA. You can take a loan if your plan allows it. Some companies don't allow you to do it. If you're the owner, you just have to be able to turn it on. That's fine. So with that being said, Um, Taking a loan is it doesn't really matter because it's not a taxable event, right? A loan is you're lending against your balance to yourself. There is an interest rate involved that goes back to yourself,
Hmm.
but it's not a taxable event. So it doesn't really matter on which side you take that on, whether it's pre-tax or Roth. It's going to come to you in the same way. Why would someone want to do a loan? Some people want to use that money to reinvest in their business. Sometimes they want to use it to invest in another investment like real estate. But the maximum you're allowed to take a loan against
Mm-hmm.
is a maximum of $50,000 or half of your balance, whichever is less. So if you only have $50,000 in it, you can only take a loan of 25,000
Okay.
as the employer. If
Hmm.
you're an employee of a company,
Hmm.
it's half of your vested balance. So if you have a vesting schedule and it's not all yours yet, because the match they gave you, then you can only take half of that.
But what about the business owner? They can take a loan or not?
Yeah, the business owner it's all their money. There is no vesting schedule for the business owner, right? So but it's that those parameters of $50,000 or
Okay.
25 or half of your balance,
Oh, okay.
whichever is less. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about the business owner, the small cap. Okay. That
Okay.
why is the solo 401k so powerful for the business owner, small business owner?
Yeah. So we're talking a solo 401k. This is a
Hmm.
solo 401k is implemented when there is no employees. So if you
Hmm.
own a business and you have no W-2 employees,
Okay.
or maybe the ones that you do employ you're paying them as a 1099 contractor,
Hmm.
or they're all part-time. Maybe they work under 20 hours per week is considered part-time in the 401k world.
Hmm.
So any of those parameters, you can open up just a solo 401k because nobody else is eligible. None of your employees are eligible in that regard. So a solo 401k with those 415 limit, the $70,000, you're allowed to invest in that much into your 401k.
Hmm.
The alternatives would be a SEP IRA or just a regular IRA. It all comes down to when we have a consultation with a client or a prospective business owner, uh, we ask two questions. Number one is, what's the purpose? Like, why are you talking to us? Why do you want to open up this 401k plan? What makes you want to implement one of these?
Hmm.
And the questions are, is it for you? So if you don't have employees, yeah, that's for you,
Hmm.
of course. Is it for your employees? That's the other part of it, because maybe they're pushing you or your state is making you do it, or is it for both? So that's one part of our questioning, and it's a multiple choice question.
Hmm.
The other part is, how much do you want to contribute?
Hmm.
What is that dollar? Is it a specific dollar?
Hmm.
Are you budgeting it, or is it as much as humanly possible? Like, do you want to just stockpile because you're making so much money? I just wanted to save taxes. I just want to save taxes. So whatever I can put into it, I can. That will help us design your retirement plan stack, the
Hmm. Hmm.
the 3 or 4 tiered retirement plan stack. And you only have to start with one. You don't have to go all in. You can go start with one. As you become more profitable, add another layer. And um, the way we design it is based on the number they give us.
Okay.
So uh, if it's a specific dollar amount, we might say, okay, a SEP IRA is all you need. It's calculated differently than a solo. You need more income
Hmm.
to save the same amount in a SEP as you would a solo. So the solo 401k is much more powerful in terms of how much you can put in for the same dollar amount that you earn
Hmm.
compared to a SEP. But two, you also have the Roth component.
Okay.
So there is no Roth component in a
Hmm.
SEP IRA.
Hmm.
There is no Roth component in a simple IRA as of today. They passed and said you could, but right now that is not available. They haven't figured out how to do it. They said you can do it, but they don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
So it's the most powerful in terms of the amounts you can contribute based on your income and what you can do with it. The flexibility of a solo 401k is so much more powerful
Hmm.
than anything that ends with IRA. Let's just put it that way. IRA is very straight,
Hmm.
whether it's a SEP, a simple, or an individual. it's very, very straightforward. Not much you can do with it. The 401k, so much flexibility to it.
Okay. And this is also belongs to freelancer also, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the
Yep.
same.
You do not, yeah, you do not need to have an entity.
Hmm.
You do not need to create an LLC. You can just collect it as a 1099. You get a 1099 every year, and then you just file it. It's called a Schedule C. So when you get a 1099 in the mail from whoever paid you, you're going to file it under a tax code under the Schedule C of your return, and that's good. That's all we need. You can mow grass on the weekends and have a day job. And as long as you are reporting your income from your lawn mowing business, you can start a 401k.
Okay. Now, suppose if I'm running a gas station, okay, I'm a business
Mhm.
owner and I'm taking the salary from it. Okay. So can I can I have the two 401k for as an employee and as a business owner?
Yeah, so this kind of gets into a little bit more detail as far as um are you asking if we can have a 401k and an IRA? Is that what you're asking?
Kind
Or are
of,
you
yeah.
asking
But for
okay,
same owner working as an employee, but he's a owner of
but
the
he owns his
gas.
own
Yeah,
business, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um so he owns the gas station. Does he have a day job?
You're
Like
right.
with another employer? Yeah. So yes, that's a really good scenario and more common than you might think actually. So there's so many side hustles going on, right? So in
Right.
this instant, the gas station is kind of like the side hustle, even though it's a major business. But there's so many side hustles going on. So for example, let's say they work in whatever, the IT industry, for example. So they work in the IT industry, or they work anywhere where they're an employee of that company, they're getting a W-2, they offer a 401k. Okay. So let's split that 401k difference between, so you got the 23,500 as an employee, and then you have an additional 46.5 as an employer. Okay.
Okay.
Those are the two contributions in there, right?
Hmm.
So the 23,500, you can only hit that once. So if you are max funding it at work, great. You're getting a match, great. Or you can split the 23.5. You can have four 401k plans between four different employers. You just can't break that 23.5 level more than once. That's it. So you can split it up as many, but whatever. Take advantage of the match, great, and then put it into yours. So it doesn't matter. But on top of that, as long as the two companies are not tied together in any way, so you have your day job, which is the IT industry, and then you own a gas station, for example. Those two have nothing to do with each other, right? You're not the owner of the IT company. They're not the owner of your gas station, and the IT company is not funding the gas station. It's not like you're funding the gas station through the IT and you're trying to come up with some creative way to for tax planning. Two separate. So that 415 limit of $70,000 in a 401k plan, yes, you can open up your own 401k for your gas station.
Okay.
And the way it's calculated is 25% of whatever you pay yourself in the gas station is how much you can put towards your 401k. So you can and that goes all the way up to $70,000. So if you're paying yourself what is that? $280,000 from the gas station per year, you can do $70,000 at your gas station, plus another 23.5 at work, plus whatever match they give you. Even if they go all the way up to $70,000, you could break 6 digits of contributions every year very easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
That
it's
they
very
can save
important as
in.
long as they're not related. That's the
Yeah,
biggest
exactly.
thing.
Okay, now the
Yeah.
another scenario. Suppose I have the two business things, two separate business. Suppose I have the IT company, I have the gas
Yeah.
station. Okay. Now as a business owner, can I open the two accounts for the 401k?
Yes, and we're getting into some really complicated plan designs here, and the amount of plans in that scenario that are out of compliance are mind-boggling. I can't imagine how many are out of compliance out there.
Hmm.
And not to scare anybody, but here's the rule. It's called a controlled group. Okay. If you own, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, multi-employer
Right.
entrepreneurs. They own many businesses because they have their hand in a lot of things. A controlled group, there's a lot of rules, so I won't get into that today. It's one of those things that you just got to have a conversation about it because they're so unique. But let's say you own both, 100% owner of both. You have to offer the same plan type to both companies. Let's say the gas station you have zero or one of them. Let's say one of them, the IT company, whatever. Let's say you have 0 employees. In the gas station, you do have employees.
Okay.
You cannot just implement a full retirement plan stack and save 300 grand a year into just the IT company. You have to offer that to the employees of your other company too, because you own 100% of both.
Okay.
Now, there are percentages that you can say, great, I don't, if you have business partners and things like that, we can work around it. And there's a lot of gray area here. But the number one rule here is the IRS will always lean into the company with the employees because you have to be the fairness rules that I talked about earlier. You have to be fair to your employees, and then you can offer it. There's a lot of providers out there that will not ask you as the employer of a 401k you want to start. Let's say you go to a certain company, you say, I want to start a 401k for my gas station. They will not ask you if you own any other companies.
Correct.
If they don't, then it's on you as the business owner. You're out of compliance. So you have to explain it and say, what do I have to do? Am I allowed to do this? And it doesn't, and what you can do is you can actually create just one plan and bring both businesses in. You don't need to have the costs of implementing 2. You just do one and it creates one plan. It's a multiple employer plan. It's very easy. We do it all the time. We sometimes will have a husband who owns one, a wife that owns another one. They're 100% owner for the husband, 100% owner for the wife. They're not commingled. They're 2 completely different industries. And we create one plan to save them money. But we do the annual testing. You have to test them together. That's the rule. You could have 2 separate ones, but they still have to be tested to get together for the fairness rules, as I call it. Annual testing is the fairness rules that I talk about all the time.
Yeah, it's really interesting part.
Yeah, there's a lot of wheels going on behind the scenes. I tell you what, this is the one thing. It's like everyone thinks 401ks are really simple. All 401ks are created equal. And sometimes I think, why did the IRS create such a complicated saving structure? It's because every business is unique. Every business evolves and you need to be able to pivot. And every 401k should be as unique as its business that it's attached to. So if you try to shove a one plan design in for every business out there, it's not going to work. It won't work. The best way to explain it is if you need the legal documents done, you go to LegalZoom, the website, and just download a boilerplate legal document and fill in your name. That's boilerplate. Versus custom is you go to the attorney, explain your exact situation, and you create a tailor-made custom legal document for you, not everybody else. Same situation. If you want to maximize the efficiency and maximize the plan design, you go custom. If you want the bare minimum because you don't care, or the state says you got to do this or whatever it is, then a boilerplate design might work. It could work. The good news is like it's all about just asking questions and trying to figure it out through conversations. That's the hardest part, is who do you ask? That's the most difficult part.
Right. Okay, for a high income business owner, is there a time when going Roth makes more sense than traditional?
Yes. Yes and no. So for a few reasons, and I hesitate on this one because again, everybody's got a different philosophy. It's split. some people like it, some people it just doesn't make sense to themselves, right? They just like, I don't get it. I don't want to do it. This doesn't make sense. A lot of the time, so in retirement, it's important to have all the buckets because you say, I need to pull from here. I want to pull from here. I want to pull from here. But let me explain this to you, I guess, more in like what happens if you go all pre-tax.
Okay.
Let's say you're like, I make money and I want to keep Uncle Sam out of the mix as much as possible. I don't want the IRS taking all my money in taxes. I want 0% tax bracket. I'm shooting for 0. Okay. And that obviously the 401k is not going to always get you there. There's all sorts of strategies out there that you pair with your 401k. But if you go all pre-tax for your entire life, once you hit retirement and you say, okay, I'm ready to retire, I need to start. The IRS makes you start taking withdrawals. You don't have to. You have to wait until after 59 and a half. They want you to work until 59 and a half. But then up until 75 for most people these days, you don't need to take any withdrawals. You have to start after 75. Like they say, okay, that's enough. We want to get paid. Now start taking distributions. It's called an RMD, required minimum distributions. It's a very small percentage of your overall balance. So it's not going to be like, I got $3 million in my 401k. Well, let's cash it in today. No, you don't do that because that'd be a huge dollar amount. You do incrementally. And that is called your required minimum distribution. And if you are a very successful business owner and you go all in on pre-tax, that number could be more than what you really need in retirement.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is maybe you only need to live off of $100,000 a year. If you're very successful, you probably are living off of higher than that. But let's just say let's say your bills are 100,000, like your utilities, your mortgages, everything is 100 grand a year. But your required minimum distribution, I've seen it as $1 million per year because they have $20 million, $30 million in retirement. Wow. I've seen that. And you're like, well, I don't need to take out $1 million a year because my bills are only $100,000 a year. But too bad. You have to take you're eating that $1 million tax bill every year. And you're like, where's the taxes? What's my tax rate going to be in retirement? A lot of people, the theory behind this, and I'd say I would not say this is for business owners. The theory for a W-2 employee is like, well, I'm not going to make as much money in retirement. So theoretically, my tax bill will be less because I'll be in a lower tax bracket. I understand that. However, if you have a big bucket of money, you might not. And also at the same time, taxes are the lowest in history right now. What are they going to look like in 30, 40 years? Because we had to eat away at our deficit.
Exactly.
Right. So so it's more of like, does it make sense to eat my taxes now at the lowest portion? And there's so many strategies around this. Like you want both. Business owners need tax deductions. They need them. They absolutely have to have them. Otherwise you are getting crushed in taxes every single year. And so it's a combination of all of it is the reality. Is what you really need is a combination of everything. Be able to pivot, do conversions later, convert some of the pre-tax to Roth early. You pay your taxes then, and then it grows tax-free later. So you can convert it, switch it in the middle of it. That's not a problem. Yes, it's taxable, but there is no penalty to it because you have to ante up what you owe basically on your taxes. You've never paid taxes on the pre-tax portion. The Roth you were supposed to. So if you want to convert it from pre-tax to Roth, you have to pay up. Okay. But then it's all tax-free after that.
Right. Now, one of the tweet that I read about that is about backdoor Roth strategy. You can see that mega backdoor Roth strategy, right? So can you just brief about what is that one and how it's different from the regular backdoor Roth IRA kind of thing?
Okay. Yeah. So a backdoor Roth IRA. Let's start there. A backdoor Roth IRA. There's limits to just a Roth. If you contribute to $7,000, I think it is for 2025, you're limited on how much money you can earn to do it. Okay. I don't remember the number off the top of my head because we don't work with IRAs too often. So, but let's just say it's like a hundred and maybe it's this. I think it's around maybe 200,000.
Hmm.
If you make over $200,000 and you file jointly, the Roth is not an option. You are not allowed to contribute as into a Roth IRA.
Okay.
IRA, not 401k, IRA.
Hmm.
So the only way to get money into the Roth in that situation is doing the backdoor Roth strategy, like you mentioned. What you do, there's something called an after-tax IRA. An
Hmm.
after-tax IRA, you pay your taxes on the money you put in,
Hmm.
just like the Roth, but
Hmm.
instead of tax-free, it grows tax-deferred, just like the pre-tax, which
Right.
is pointless. Like, what's the point of that, in my opinion? So what you do is you contribute. There is no limit on the after-tax IRA. You can make as much money as you want on an after-tax IRA.
Hmm.
You contribute to 7,000 of that, and you immediately convert it over to Roth.
Hmm.
The conversions have no income limits.
Hmm.
Conversions have no income limits. So you just do after tax, convert it to the Roth, and boom, now you have a Roth IRA.
Okay.
So high income earners, this
Hmm.
is generally done from W-2 employees if you work for somebody. This is how you get a little bit more money into the Roth portion for yourself.
Okay.
Great. Now, moving on to you know, the 401k version of this, which is called the mega backdoor Roth
Right. Yeah.
conversion.
Hmm.
So mega backdoor Roth conversion. So this kind of goes down to back to the questions I asked before. How much do you want to contribute? And then a follow-up question is do you want Roth or pre-tax, right?
Hmm.
So how much do you want to contribute? So I said before the 23,500, you can just do Roth. You go straight into the Roth 401k portion.
Hmm.
Great. If I ask you the question, how much do you want to contribute, and it's 23,500, just
Hmm.
do the Roth and move on. There's no income limit on the 401k side of it, remember? So, but if your answer is I want to put $70,000 into the Roth, I'll say, okay. So back to that 415 limit, which is $70,000 for 2025. It's composed of 23.5 as an employee and 46.5 as an employer.
Okay.
Then the after-tax portion eats up that 46.5 of employer contributions. So you're going to say, I'm going to put 23.5 into the Roth.
Hmm.
I'm then going to contribute 46.5 or anywhere in between towards the after-tax portion. You're then going to convert it to the Roth immediately before the end of the year. Okay.
Right. Hmm.
There's some nuance to that. It
Hmm.
has to be considered, it has to be pulled from your payroll. It has to run through your pay. If you don't run pay through payroll, it's easy, it's fine. You can do it. But if you pay yourself because you're an S corporation, you pay
Right.
yourself a salary,
Hmm.
it has to run through that payroll.
Okay.
The other part of it
Hmm.
is this only works on solo 401ks if you're the business owner. If
Hmm.
you're the business owner, it only works on solo 4. If you have employees, W-2 employees that work over 1,000 hours a year,
Hmm.
you will the employee can do it. The employer cannot. You will fail your annual test
Hmm.
because it's considered top heavy, top employer heavy. They want it, the fairness rules, right?
Hmm.
You're not going to get penalized. You're just going to get the check back and say you put too much in.
Hmm.
It's fine. Move on. You're okay.
Hmm.
So if you try to implement the after-tax mega backdoor Roth conversion strategy with employees,
Hmm.
you will be very limited on how much you can do, if maybe even zero into
Okay.
it.
Hmm.
Okay. So you will be limited on that. So solo 401ks, you can do it all day long.
Hmm.
You can do it all day long. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of companies out there that allow it because it's kind of an outside of the box strategy. You have to work with a company like ours that will allow it on your plan document.
Hmm.
Remember, it's that boilerplate version. They want to keep it right inside this. They want to keep it in a scope that their employees aren't doing too much versus the custom approach, the legal Zoom versus the attorney.
Hmm.
You got to work with the quote unquote the attorney version, the custom version to build that out for you.
Okay. So is there any that limitations or that who qualifies for that one to use for the mega
The
backdoor?
mega.
Yeah.
Anybody, anybody. It's just the only rule is that the employee side of it. If you have employees, it won't work. So,
Okay.
but any business owner can do that as long as you don't have the employees, and it's inside the solo 401k. So
Mm.
the only limitation is that you have to pay yourself
Mm.
the amount that you want to contribute. That's it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you legally combine a solo 401k and defined benefit plan and the Roth 401k? Why would someone do that?
Yeah. So, absolutely, this goes into that retirement plan stack, right?
Ah,
That's the 401k and then profit sharing and then defined benefit plan, which we haven't really touched on that too much.
hmm.
And I'll explain that here in a minute, but you absolutely can combine them. They're completely separate types of plans. The 401k and the profit sharing is technically like together. Those are considered a defined contribution plan.
Hmm.
You're defining the amount you're contributing into the plan by 23.5, 70. It's the dollar amount you're putting in.
Hmm.
A defined benefit plan is, and actually, let me take it. You can also add an IRA to that
Mm-hmm.
if you want to keep a very little small part on the very bottom, as long as you are under those income limits that we talked about that IRAs have, you can do that as well. You can
Okay.
add that on there. You can do you can do the backdoor Roth if you want. That's totally fine. So those two are not, those are not mutually exclusive. So the defined benefit plan, so 401k and profit sharing,
Hmm.
defined contribution plans.
Okay.
Defined benefit plan is like the old school pensions that Ford and GM used to have, where you get a check every year, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're defining the future benefit,
Hmm.
which is the pension part of it, right?
Hmm.
That's a defined benefit plan. There are versions called cash balance plans. It's a different version of a defined benefit plan, is the best way to explain this. And it's a more casual version of that. Okay. It mimics, there's a lot more flexibility. I won't get too far down that road, but that is an age-based
Hmm.
contribution amount. There's a lot of variables. You actually have to bring an actuary in to calculate that, which we have. And the younger you are, the less you can put in.
Hmm.
So, for example, we just built out one. It was a husband wife business owners
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and no employees whatsoever. We built that strategy to the absolute full degree. There's other strategies inside of the defined benefit plan where you can increase it even further above those limits.
Hmm.
But between the two of them, we were able to get over 600 grand between the two total
Okay.
into the full stack.
Hmm.
And with that being said, you can imagine, depending on what state they're in, let's just call it the overall 40% tax bracket.
Hmm.
They save $240,000 in taxes in that year, every year for every year. This is a annual contribution of 600 grand
Hmm.
that they're allowed to do. They were obviously making well over $1 million per year to be able to, or to want to be able to do that and still, fund their lifestyle with the rest of the money. But they're saving $240,000 in taxes every single year. And that is not something uh, to look away from. It's a very powerful tool. It's not something to ignore. And that is, and actually, we're going to be pulling back the 240 a little bit on that because they're also doing the mega backdoor Roth conversion
Hmm.
inside of that full stack. So $70,000 is going to be Roth, and the rest of it is pre-tax,
Oh,
with
okay.
the idea of converting it a little bit later when they retire. So they're
Hmm.
not having this big R&D later.
Okay.
They require
So
minimum
many
distribution.
many companies are giving that numbers of shares to the employee, right? So
I'm sorry, say that again. A number of
number of
what?
shares, stock market.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also coming under the defined benefit plan, or no? That's a separate thing.
No, that's those are completely different kinds of plans. Um, it's like private, that could be private stock. It's a completely different type of plan that's outside of
Oh,
all of
okay.
this. Generally, that's kind of those types of plans are earmarked for very large companies.
Mhm.
Um, which we do work with some of them. I tell you, that's probably outside. That's probably outside of our expertise as far as we know how to do them, but at the same time, it's kind of outside of the processes that we've built for our company. We specialize in companies that are smaller, like under a couple hundred, a couple hundred employees, maybe up to 1,000. But there's another version that's called phantom stock. Okay, so you're talking about stock options. They're getting stock options through various plan types. That's great. That's one plan. But phantom stock is you're building out phantom stock, and you are basically creating guidelines around that. So you'll get a valuation done every year on your business,
Right.
and say, okay, the company is worth this much. Each share is worth this much. I am giving my employees a phantom stock amount, but it comes in just the simple form of a bonus. It's just the bonus.
Right.
So it's phantom stock. It's not something that is tradable. It's just a bonus for the dollar amount that it equals to. So that is another kind of that is a version of something that you can do for a small business. Generally, those are good for companies that are maybe doing 10 million a year. Okay, so much, they're still big, successful companies, but there's not thousands of employees. There's maybe just a couple hundred, or even something, maybe even just, under 100. You can do that for. And generally, those are earmarked towards the executives, which is a whole nother category of plan that we haven't really touched on, called executive benefits. This is another layer that you can put at the very top. All those fairness rules that we've talked about, right?
Right.
Fairness rules are considered where you have to include all the employees. A executive benefit is considered a non-qualified plan. Executive benefits, you can target only individuals, like your leadership team.
Okay.
And say, I want my leadership team, my executives, to only get this extra benefit. And that is considered an executive benefit. You do not have to give it to everybody, just the people you want to target.
Yeah, many companies do that, right? I agree. So what is an in-plan Roth rollover, and when did it make sense to use it?
Yeah, so in-plan rollover, it's just every plan out there it's something called an adoption agreement. It's the plan document is another term that's used. But as long as you allow in-plan conversions in the document, you can just do a conversion. So basically what that means is you contributed to pre-tax and you start realizing later, I should have done Roth. You just move it over and flop it over. The amount that you're doing, because the pre-tax has never been taxed. So you put 150 grand in, or let's say you've contributed 100 grand into your 401k, and you say, I wish I did Roth. As long as your plan document allows it, you say, okay, I want to convert my money to the Roth. But let's say your 100 grand moved up, it grew to 150. If you want to convert the entire amount, you're converting 100. You pay taxes on the 150, but you don't have to. You just do whatever you want. And usually it's a tax game. It's a tax bracket game. It's a conversation you have with your accountant. You say, hey, where is my tax bracket this year? How much room do I have between the 25 and the 37, for example, whatever, 33 or whatever it is. You say, okay, you can do 50 grand. So you just move over 50 grand. It stays below the tax bracket. And you do the next later. So you usually do it incrementally. You don't have to do it all at once. You just kind of do it, whatever, even the growth will be taxed. But the concept there is like, okay, now it's going to be all taxes will be tax-free in the future. All growth will be tax-free in the future. A lot of times when people say, I want to retire early, lots of industries are like really hardcore. Like the medical device industry, for where they're selling equipment to surgeons. They work really, really hard. They make like 800 grand to $1 million a year in their 20s and 30s, but then they're just completely worn out by the time they're 40.
Right.
And we have a lot of clients in this regard. And they say, okay, well, I'm going to do the pre-tax because I need it now. But when I retire at 40, my income is going to be lower. And I'm going to do the conversions then when my income's lower, because I'm going to have a lot more room to convert it. So we even have people putting money in the defined benefit plan just so they can convert it later.
Right.
Because they know they're like, I just want to get it in the plan so I can convert it later because I love Roth.
Hmm.
I can't do it afterwards. I have to use it inside the plan. So they do it that way.
Okay. So generally they are retired around 40.
45, they might do something later, but they're going to take a break for a little bit and maybe start a business later or something like that. But early retirement is definitely a common topic we have with business owners.
Okay. I think we will
Yeah.
come in the next part.
Yeah. That's a whole nother episode, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's talk about the mistakes, commonly mistakes. Okay. So
Okay.
let's finish it quickly. So what are the most the common mistake people make with the 401k and the Roth contributions?
Well, I think it's more about assuming all 401ks are created equal.
Equal.
Assuming that they'll have the capabilities to do it, assuming that there's not much to it. And the reality is there's a lot to it. There's a lot more conversation that needs to be had about that. If it makes sense for you, it's about building the team and the communication between you, your accountant, and your 401k administrator, and making sure that everyone's on the same page. Because if you're taking only one person's advice and not connecting it to your taxes, um, that's not going to work. I kind of say this loosely, but at the same time, there is a reality behind it. Business owners care about two things, and it's growing their company, it's growing their business,
Okay.
and taxes. In taxes. So if everything you're doing doesn't check off one of those two boxes, they usually don't prioritize it. That's usually not on the top of their list because of one, it's not helping their business, or two, it's not helping them with taxes. Now, this is separate from charitable stuff and all that and family. I'm talking about the business only. So if it's not helping the business in one of those two ways, they put it to the side and say, I'll talk about that later. But everything has to do with those two topics. So communication is very important on that, and assuming that all sides are on the same page is not accurate most of the time.
Okay. Many times I also found that the financial advisors sometimes they doesn't want to tell you much in the deeper. Sometimes they want to sell their products, kind of things, right? So what's the one thing the most CPAs or the financial advisors overlook or forget to mention?
Oh boy. Yeah. So I'm gonna turn that a little bit, I think. So first, I wouldn't call that a financial advisor. There's a big difference between financial advisor who's advising you based on your best interests
Right.
and a salesperson selling a financial product.
Agree.
Two completely different things, right?
Yeah.
So first, I wanted to say that. Second, we are not financial advisors. We are 401k administrators. We work with financial advisors. We work with CPAs. We're on the same side of the table as everybody. It just depends on who's asking us to help them or their client. And third, the 401k world is vast. It is vast. We are scratching the surface today. And most accountants, most financial advisors, or financial professionals in general don't know the full world of the 401k industry.
Right.
I personally train CPAs. I train financial advisors. I train insurance agents to make sure that they understand what they're getting into and what the nuance is around it. And the biggest mistake, I'm probably going to answer this for every single one of them, assuming all 401ks are created equal. That is so far from the truth because if you don't design each layer a certain way, you are throwing money out the window in either one of two ways. One, you're giving too much to your employees, more than you need to, or two, you're not fully efficient and you're not getting the full capabilities of the plan.
Correct.
And there's so many intricate variables and calculations that need to be done in order to make it efficient. Let's just call it that way. We've had clients who come in our door saying, I set my plan up over here. The complaints are either their costs are way too high because they made them open 3 plans for their 3 businesses instead of just one. That's one, paying over $10,000 a year. 2, they were giving more than $50,000 extra to their above and beyond what they had to their employees because it wasn't designed right. Or 3, they opened it because it was easy, and now the service level is far below what they thought. And the 90% of the time we uncover a 401k plan or we're asked to look at it, we're fixing something. We're amending it. We're lowering the cost here. We're doing something. Because a lot of the times it was sold as a financial product and not necessarily in the full best interest of the client. Not because the salesperson was doing it in their best, mostly because one, their company they work for doesn't have the full potential of what you can do inside of a 401k, right? Boilerplate versus custom, or they just simply don't have the education around it. You're working with someone on an 800 number who there's a lot of turnover and they're being trained on it 3 weeks before they talk to you, kind of situation. So working with the expert is very, very important in that regard.
Okay. So one last question. Suppose now, if you want to, there are so many investment options in that one, right? Under the 401k. Now, the persons, if you want to change that particular investment, right? Are they in the technology? Are they in the real estate, right? Who should be the best person to contact with? Is the 401k administration or the financial advisor?
Good question. So there's 3 roles to every 401k plan. There's the administrator, which that's our role. There's the investment fiduciary, so who's guiding the investments. Okay. We also can take on that role, or a financial advisor. And then the third one's the custodian. In a solo 401k, you can, in any 401k, you can have self-directed options. Self-directed as well, meaning you as the business owner are doing your investing. You can also act as the administrator, but don't be careful. And so whoever's guiding that, whether it's the business owner, whether it's if you have a financial advisor, great. Or if sometimes we'll do it because there is no financial advisor. We do that for majority of our clients, to be honest with you. And it's more of how that's built out. Okay, so that's part of it. And the second thing is again, let's go back to that umbrella, the 401k umbrella. You have an umbrella. Whatever you want to invest in is the custodian, that third role. So like, for example, let's say you want to use Fidelity as your custodian. Okay. Right. We act as the administrator because we're doing a custom design for you. You want a self-directed Fidelity. You're only going to buy stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and index funds there. You're not going to buy cryptocurrency because Fidelity doesn't allow it. You're not going to invest in a duplex. You're not going to invest in an office building. You're not going to invest in oil and natural gas or whatever it is, solar investing. Those are very specialized investments. All you have to do under the umbrella is bring in another custodian that allows that, or open up a bank account if you want to do real estate. It's just, you can have as many custodians underneath your umbrella based on your investment philosophy. You just can't have more than one umbrella.
Oh, okay. Now let's have the quick rapid fire round. I will give you, that's only one word options. Okay. So
one word answers. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Roth or traditional?
Roth.
Solo or SEP?
Solo.
Tax now or later?
I have a follow-up question. Tax savings or pay tax?
Now? Yeah, no, tax now or later. So pre-tax or the post-tax kind of thing.
Now.
Now, okay. Mega backdoor or regular Roth?
Mega.
Okay. DIY or advisor?
Yes.
Okay, growth or safety?
Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble on that one. No comment.
No comments. No option.
That's 2 words though. Darn it. Okay.
LLC or W2?
LLC.
Okay. Cash or wealth?
Wealth.
Risk or missed opportunity?
Missed opportunity in regards to what is more important is
Yeah.
missed opportunity. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if IRS call you tomorrow, what's the first word that come into your mind?
I can't say that on it's hold on.
Yeah.
And then you pick up the phone and talk to your team.
Right. Okay. The last, what's kind of one piece of advice that you want to give to the business owner?
Ask questions. Like just ask questions. Um don't rely I mean there needs to be a component of DIY, understanding. Do your research. There's so much. However, um I run a networking group for financial content creators,
Mhm.
and there's so much more to what you hear and read about
Mm.
because that is going out to the general public, right? That information, even what I'm saying today, I'm talking about things that are for the general public. There's so much more nuance to there's strategies that we have not talked about. How it connects with your other tax strategies. There's a million tax strategies out there. All these tax codes are built for business owners, all of them. 401k is one of many, of hundreds of them. So how it all connects is also, you should not be assuming everyone is it, you should not, I shouldn't, you should not look at every single one of them in a scope. It's just an isolated scope. It all has to come together and make sense because if it's not, then it's going to be a free for all, and you're not going to know how it connects and how this strategy messes with this strategy and so on and so forth. So do your research enough to understand and recognize the conversation that you're having, but also building a team is so important. I mean, so important. Building a team that you trust is important. If you're trying to do it all, and understand it all, it's not going to. I'm not saying you're going to fail. I'm just going to say it's not. You're not going to get the full potential.
Okay.
Building a team that communicates with each other is
Right.
really, really important in the business world.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you, Matt. It was really wonderful conversations. Probably that I'm sure that there's a lot of another topic that we can cover. Probably next time that we'll
Yeah,
talk
lots.
together again and we find out the another topics that we can discuss about. I'm also thinking about if we can do the live sessions, that if someone has live
Yes,
questions that we can cover, let's see that how it responds from this podcast. Then we'll plan together. Thank you so much for
100%.
coming. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Samir. Appreciate it.